So as soon as you're in the nonprofit or not-for-profit group, you are not getting rich.
Yeah. What do you want to do after high school? This question stresses out every single teenager because the truth is, we can't make up our minds about what we're going to eat for breakfast, let alone a whole career.
But with applications around the corner, we need to do something about it. Join us every Thursday at 1, where we interview professionals in a variety of careers, so that one day we can answer this stressful question with confidence in our choices and ourselves. This is Career Hunt.
If you love English and are trying to pick between becoming an English teacher or a librarian, why not do both? That's exactly the job we'll be exploring today. Literacy facilitators.
What?
Literacy facilitators are essentially individuals that work with schools and libraries to enhance reading and writing skills in the community. The literacy facilitator at my library, for example, creates volunteer programs, ESL groups, and social services. They stay up to date on the latest books and resources and host training and workshops for tutor volunteers. The typical education for this job requires at least 2 years of post-secondary education with courses like childhood education, education theory, and more along those lines. Sometimes you'll need additional certifications such as teaching English as a second language, and job experience in the public services is extremely valuable for this job. Now the salary varies from job to job, but typically you can look at around $20 to $30 an hour. If you were to work full-time, it would be around $40,000 to $60,000 a year. Like other jobs in the social services industry, you may not become a millionaire right away, but this job comes with a lot of internal satisfaction because you'll truly be empowering people in your community and making a difference in their lives. Today's coordinator is one I personally met at a volunteer program, and she was the first in her position and has been holding it for 14 years. She's fantastic at her job and can literally recommend a book to every human on this planet. So without further ado, let's get on with the interview. See, I'm a poet now. This is the power of reading. Okay, let's start. Tell us about yourself and your journey to becoming a literacy facilitator. So, education, kind of like your journey to this position.
Right. So when I went to university, I had thought about being a teacher. That didn't work out. And I had actually worked in the library as a teenager, and through, they had special sort of entry-level positions for university students. And at that time, I always thought, there is no way I'd ever work at the library. I can't see myself checking books in and out every day. But I actually sort of fell back there and realized there was more to it than just that. This position actually didn't come about till many years later. I had worked at the library for 20 years. So I had been in locations where the READ program had been as a volunteer program. So it was completely volunteer driven. Got to learn about it that way. Lots of years to do programming with families and children, learn about the books, network with different staff. And then when they decided in 2007, oh, we need to have literacy facilitator, they created this position. And I had sort of just over the years, through experience, built up the necessary skills for the job, and I got it, and that was the first person to have the job. So they created the position.
So what led you to the literacy field?
I think I always enjoyed reading myself. I always knew that I wanted to work with families and children. I enjoyed maybe mentoring, that improvement, letting children see their potential. I'm a mother. I have 2 daughters. My older daughter, she was the type who just read early on. My younger daughter, I think it was probably, even though she had been to all the story times at the library, we read every night. It wasn't until maybe the summer after grade 8, and I just told her, go, we can buy whatever you want at Chapters just to interest you in books. And she finally said, oh, that's the first good book I ever read. And after all the exposure to books, so I'd sort of seen the child who struggles with reading too. And I knew that I could see from a parent's point of view what that was like. In university, I maybe tended to focus on linguistics and psychology, things like that. But I think more than ever, it's the experience along the way that gives you the skills to do this job.
Describe a day in your life.
Every day is different. Unlike my previous positions with the library, where there was a routine and it was very focused on being on the front circulation desk and doing that kind of public service interaction, every day is different. So I may be reading notes from that volunteers leave after each of their sessions. I'm reading great books. I'm researching what's new in the way of how children learn, how families react in times like the pandemic, what new research is there about literacy, how we acquire language and read, what new games and activities are there out there. Also, a very important part of my job is outreach. So that means that we deliver literacy services, whether it's free books, programs, support to groups outside the library. So networking, always being in conversation, even now while we're just working from home online, still having those important conversations with other professionals, community groups, so that we can maintain that connection. So every day can be different. And sometimes I'm doing things like I'm down in the basement painting pieces of cardboard for the potential Read celebration, so they can be a paint night. So you name it, I could be doing it.
This job is for someone who wants to be wealthy, like they're only focused on the money.
Definitely not. Whether you work for the library or there are similar types of positions in community groups, they tend to be nonprofit. So as soon as you're in the nonprofit or not-for-profit group, you are not getting rich.
Yeah, I see. Someone who wants to be a leader.
Potentially, if you mean leading groups, not in a sense of fame and fortune, like a politician or, a CEO, definitely not.
Wants to have a generous amount of free time.
This job has a lot of flexibility in the schedule. So basically I can create my work schedule as long as I get everything done and put in my hours. And especially at home, I can, work a morning and an evening, whatever. But I wouldn't say so. Sometimes you're working extra long hours, sometimes not. I mean, and basically depends on the organization that employs you, whether you still have to put in your hours. So it's not quite that flexible. You'd still have put in your 9 to 5, whatever, 35, 40 hours a week. And yeah.
Someone who wants to work with others.
Definitely.
Someone who wants to have a stable income.
That is one of the great things working for the library. It's very stable. You are not going to get rich, but it's very stable. It may not be so if you're working with other nonprofit organizations, because their existence and their programming is totally on the funds that they can raise. So there could be some differences depending on who you work for. With the library, yes.
Someone who wants to be creative.
Yes, definitely.
Someone who wants to travel as part of their job.
I wouldn't say so, because again, you're working for nonprofit and there isn't that in the budget. If traveling to different libraries in the city, or the odd time you get to go to maybe a conference within a driving distance, that's considered travel, but no, not really.
Someone who wants to get a job easily with their degree.
There aren't a lot of us out there, so I wouldn't say so. Again, it might be easier to get it in a other nonprofit. The library is a union organization, so again, you have to have, there's not as many positions, but No, I wouldn't say that it's a quick job. And I think that, again, you need to have a lot of well-rounded experience plus the education, and you have to have proven that you can run programs and offer that similar support. So it might not be an entry-level position. It's something you grow into.
Someone who wants to start a family early. So in terms of like how much time you can dedicate to your family.
Again, working for the library in a union organization, you have the benefit of that's built into it. So there are protections if you have children, and our other literacy facilitator, Caitlin, just came back from maternity leave. So yes, it is the hours being somewhat flexible. The scheduling make it okay for having a family. I did this, I worked in the library before in my position when I had young children. It's very much more structured. So that can be challenging, but it's still, the library is a great supportive place, and certainly you can have a family and work and be fulfilled there.
And someone who wants to make a difference in the world.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. It's small differences, but definitely that's one of the best parts about this job.
Yeah.
I saw the program in action when I worked at the Crouch Library and the Sherwood Library and Jalna Library previously. And it just seemed to really be almost the best of wanting to be a teacher. You weren't confined by maybe a teachers federation and the curriculum and all the other things. You could just be really creative, match the child's interest and skill level, and really motivate them to be a reader and see themselves as a reader. And that interested me. So when I first took on this position, it was, for one thing, it was one of the few ways that you could get ahead, get maybe a higher level position in the library and not be a librarian, because I'm not a full librarian. And that appealed to me. And some of the hurdles was, well, I was the only person doing the job, so no one had ever done it. So in one way, you had the creativity to create this job, but you also had, how do I do this? You had no one who had ever done it before. You're working very much on your own. So that can be, just reaching out to people is a bit difficult. But if you have initiative, creativity, and passion about it, you can make this job anything you want it to be. And the library has been extremely supportive in allowing us to see this position grow beyond the READ program. So it's educating families. I've done some workshops for Fanshawe's child and youth and social work programs. So trying to make connections between books and how they can use that in their career. I've worked on teams with the Child and Youth Network to create things like physical literacy kits, you name it. Now we're branching out into a teen program. I do outreach with Indigenous communities. So you can make it as much as you want.
Is there a story of like a child or somebody you've worked with that still sticks to you?
Yes. Strangely, it often happens completely out of the blue. And this, I'd say this fall when we were recruiting new volunteers, we had a potential volunteer contact us, and she mentioned in her interview that she had actually been a child in the program. And when she was asked, oh, do you remember who your partner was? She said, definitely, this person made such a difference in my life. And her partner was actually a former child in the program too. So we were able to actually connect them. Her previous volunteer had been a newcomer, a child in the program. Her volunteer made such an impact on her that she became a volunteer. Then she became one of our summer students we hired, and then had such an impact on her partner that her partner is now a volunteer. And we were able to connect them. And so the former volunteer was, I believe, going to med school in New York State, but she was home, and I just was able to message her on Facebook and connect the two. And so it's like the full circle. You see the impacts that you have on people's lives and they have on each other's lives, and then to connect them again is what more gratification can you get from a program or a job?
If you were to go back in time, would you have changed careers?
I don't think so. There may have been things that I could do that would have more money, but would I be as happy? Would I be as fulfilled? Would I feel like even on my own time, I'm thinking about ways that I could do this job? It's benefited my life, others. No, I think, and the people that I've met, no, I think that this is really where I'm supposed to be.
Thank you guys so much for watching.
Don't forget to like and subscribe.
And comment down below if you think this job is a good fit for you.
And if it's not, comment down below which one you'd like us to do next time.
See you next time.
Bye!